Change of guard at the centre is not going to help the cause of telecom operators, it seems, because despite the strong reservations expressed by the telecom regulator TRAI, the government today chose to set a high base price for 2G spectrum auctions. The Union Cabinet has set the base price for the superior bandwidth 900 MHz at 3980 crore rupees, while the base price for 800 and 1800 bands will be 3650 crore rupees and 2190 crores respectively. The base price for the key 900 MHz band is around 33% higher than what the regulator had indeed recommended.
Clearly, the industry is not amused. Experts say the high base price will have a big impact on the financials of telcos, but it will also push up tariffs in the medium term. But for a cash-starved government, the options may be limited. After all, it is looking to raise over 60,000 crore rupees from 2G spectrum auctions alone.
Let's get you an expert voice, a man who isn't too amused this evening, and that's Sanjay Kapoor, Chairman Micromax, and of course the former CEO at Airtel, who joins us live right here in Business Tonight. Thanks very much, Mr. Kapoor, for being with us. Reserve price is on the higher side, in fact, a lot higher than what the TRAI had recommended. How big a blow is this for telecom operators?
I think the overall approach to spectrum pricing per se is not something which is a good news for the sector. Very clearly, in my mind, any reserve price, whether high or low, is academic in nature. The basic question is the quantum of spectrum that's there on the table and the fact that incumbent operators have millions of customers and millions of dollars of revenues at stake to let any amount of the spectrum go out of hand. Therefore, no matter what the reserve price is, they have to defend the spectrum that they hold. And I think in the light of that, the design of these auctions, like some of the previous auctions, again, is to maximize revenues for the government.
You know, Sanjay, a lot is at stake for telecom operators in these auctions as they need to ensure business continuity. So are we likely to see aggressive participation because industry is left with no choice?
Oh, yes, of course. The government will more than achieve their objective, for a simple reason that for most of the incumbent operators, it is 900 megahertz of spectrum which is at stake. And if you really analyze the performance of the operators, bulk of their monies are made out of the 900 megahertz of spectrum. And more so, if you see any incumbent operator with a 900 megahertz of spectrum band, he is bound to be either a number one or number two in that circle by virtue of the quality of spectrum that he carries. Do you believe that any one of them would like to give up their number one or number two position in the market and relinquish that to somebody else? That's not going to happen, and therefore they will go all out, and government will more than achieve their objective.
You know, Sanjay, look at the government release tells you that it hopes to mop up 65,000 crore rupees from these auctions. You know, it's almost deja vu. This is the kind of language that we heard a lot from the UPA government. Firstly, is this target realistic, and does it worry you that even this government is looking at spectrum largely to bridge its revenue deficit?
Yeah, I think it pains my heart when I see that a resource as potent as spectrum, which can actually lead to competitiveness of the country and the industry, also create huge amount of employment, also bring in several services and businesses to life, that we treat spectrum as a fiscal deficit bridging instrument. And I think that's a very short-term view. To me, spectrum should be available in plenty to the industry, to the users, and be forced to utilize to its fullest by the government with proper governance, and therefore realize the growth in the economy, jobs, employment, and industry per se, both service and manufacturing, going forward, rather than only looking at a short-term view. But I think we are where we are, so we need to make the best with the policies that can be liberalized to make the best of the current situation.
All right, I'm interested in how this entire thing is really going to impact me, the consumer, Mr. Kapoor, because aggressive bids will stretch the balance sheets of telecom operators. Is this imminent? They will pass it on to consumers?
Yes, I think it's a concern for the industry at large because obviously the debt burden will further go up. And no matter who you are, you cannot sustain these losses and this burden throughout. It's a 20-year license, and I have no doubt in my mind that eventually the costs will be passed on to the consumer.
You know, before I let you go, everybody keeps talking about digital India and you know how it is going to transform the country. Given the acute spectrum crunch and very high prices that we are now seeing, will the government's ambitious digital India plan really remain a pipe dream? That's very good to be spoken about at conferences, but not so much of a reality, really?
I think the policies on the table today are really lacking from that grandeur vision. I really love that vision. I think the Prime Minister himself is very passionate about that vision, and all of us who belong to this industry and the allied part of the industry support the government and the Prime Minister on that great vision. But I think when you really look at the policies on the ground, they are far from being very supportive. Now take for example in a country where obviously it's taking time to have enough spectrum available on the ground. Can we not have spectrum sharing in the meanwhile? Because we know that, you know, 2 carriers of spectrum are better than 1 and 3 carriers are better than 2. You know, and therefore you allow everybody to liberally at least share spectrum till such time more spectrum is available. But no, that is not happening. Can you trade spectrum so that people who don't utilize spectrum fully can give it to people who have got a better demand for it, better utilization for it? That ain't happening either. Right? So I think whether you look at mergers, acquisitions, any optimal utilization of spectrum is not coming by the policy framework that's there. I think we need to really speed that up to back that grand vision that we have. Otherwise that vision will remain a vision which may not fructify into reality.
Sanjay, I appreciate you joining us on Business Tonight with that perspective and really putting things in perspective on how the government could have acted differently and how, on account of these high prices, the whole Digital India initiative could well be a bit of a non-starter. Thanks for joining in with that perspective right here on Business Tonight.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.